All right, so welcome. So this is going to be the first episode of Multiple Brokerage Personalities, where I talk about the different brokerage accounts I have and how my investing style and strategies change with each one. So the first one is dear to my heart. It's called the Roth IRA, and it's what actually first got me started in investing. When I was in 2012, I had actually started my residency, was getting a salary for the first time. First time I felt like I could pay my own bills, I was paying rent. I was fortunate enough that I was able to finish med school without debt because my parents were able to help me out. But this is the first time where I was actually making money. It was about $1,500, I think, paycheck. And first one went to paying rent, paying groceries, trying to keep up with my bills. The second one went to essentially more of the same, but I was able to cut up about $500 a month. I was able to contribute to my Roth IRA and max out the $6,000 contribution limit for whatever year I was in. I think back then it might have actually been $5,500, but you kind of get the point. So the Roth IRA is a retirement savings account that only certain people have access to. So the Roth IRA is essentially a wonderful wealth hack to put your money in after taxes, have it grow, compound without having to pay taxes on dividends, capital gains. So if you're a swing trader, this could be the perfect account for you. All your capital gains, they're all going to be short. Instead of paying your income tax, you get to go ahead and keep all those gains, roll it over into your next swing trade, and allow it to compound and grow a lot faster. So if you haven't done so, I would really recommend considering doing a Roth IRA. But so with this Roth IRA, like I said, there are income limits. And so for me, I'm personally a high income earner and no longer able to contribute to this, but I still find ways to find it in there. And so I do a traditional and I backdoor it, but that'll be a topic of a different conversation. You can actually look for one of the videos down there in the tax sale about the backdoor Roth IRA or a Roth conversion. But personally for me, my Roth IRA is actually pretty boring. You hear me about being a lazy investor or a vanilla investor. Essentially what I do in my Roth IRA is simple. I'm trying to build it to just set it and forget it. I did tinker with it a lot this year, and so it's kind of restructured a little bit. So you're going to see kind of three categories. First category is going to be my index funds. So I just basically use S&P 500. I think I'm using the Fidelity Zero Expense one that's tracking the S&P 500, and that's the majority of it. I do have a couple experiments running in there where I'm doing the VU, the RSP, and the QQQ one. I don't think that's the right one, but I'll go ahead and just post that in the comments below. But essentially I'm looking at a leveraged, an equal weight, and then the traditional S&P 500 index fund and seeing which one's going to do better. If it does, maybe in 2022, I'll change some of my Roth kind of S&P 500 allotment to one of the three that performs best. But by and large, a third of my money is just index fund. A third of my money is in an REIT. So I have one through Vanguard. And honestly, a lot of people were, I think when I posted about it, concerned that I was so concentrated. And you got to remember that when you have a Roth IRA, you also have other employer 401k, hopefully, your individual brokerage account. So it's not just what it looks like in your individual account. It's what it looks like in the broad spectrum of things. And so for me, the REIT, while it's a third of my Roth IRA, it's a lot smaller than that when you factor in I max out my 401k every year, and that's just in a target date fund for 2050. I also have an HSA that's just in VT, and so by and large, the REIT isn't as much as you think it was, but the dividends that I collect from it get to grow tax-free, get reinvested, and so that's one of the reasons why I like having my dividend ones in the Roth IRA. It's tax sheltered, it's allowed to grow, and that's why I use it. The third category is just going to be individual stocks, okay? So for me, I wasn't really a big fan of dividends. I'm still not 100% sold on trying to do everything dividend related. I think dividends are important. I think reinvesting it through the DRIP method is very good. But at the same time, I'm not going to pick a dividend stock solely based off of the dividend yield. And so there are some traps, okay? There's some other great videos out there. You can look into that. But essentially, you don't want a high percentage dividend yield in a company that's just kind of dropping their stock prices. And so if the money they're giving out is basically staying the same, but the stock prices is dropping, it's going to make that yield look bigger and bigger and bigger. But that's a sign that that company's probably not one you want to put your money in, because you don't want to see your principal go down as well. It doesn't matter how much mailbox money or dividends you get to collect if your overall principal is dropping in worth. So kind of that's my Roth IRA. It's nothing honestly magical with the investments I'm putting into it. It's the actual account itself that's magical. So I get to grow it. Capital gains tax-free, dividends go tax-free. It's able to compound, grow faster, and the beautiful part about the Roth is that actually happens after compounding has taken effect. So when I'm 59 and a half and older, I get to withdraw that money tax-free, okay? At 59 and a half, I'm hoping to still be practicing ophthalmology, which means I'm gonna still be in a high tax bracket. So it's kind of nice that all that money I'm contributing right now that grows, it's gonna give me extra income tax-free. And that's why I say you should look into it. You should really consider it. Honestly, this should be your first one before just your typical online brokerage account. And don't get me wrong, I love public, I'm indifferent to HUD, I have a Fidelity one, but if you have kind of limited income, employer match 401k is probably your one. Your number two should be a Roth. The individual brokerage account might be fun. You might have some kind of great things on public where you can socially interact and learn, but that should probably be a small fraction to teach you kind of what you should be doing, finding some healthy habits, maybe some ideas, and then really translating that to your Roth IRA. So if you like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Appreciate you following along.